Hello everybody, my name is Ryalus and welcome to this video. This is the first episode in my new series, Summoners War Monster Spotlights. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to call it, however it is going to be a guide about how to use a monster, one particular monster in every video. It will be everything about the monster, how to obtain it, like what that monster does, why you should use it, the rune guides, early, mid games, late games, PvP, and what every single one of his skill does, what that monster benefits from, and every little piece of information I know about that monster. So let's get in. The first episode will be covering Verdehile. Verdehile is an amazing, very good utility monster, and I felt like he would be a perfect start to start off this series. As I have him in the background, we will be covering how to obtain him. Verdehile is very easy to obtain. He is such a power unit. He's a powerhouse of a unit. He brings so much to the table. How you get him? To obtain Verdehile is very easy. You can either, 1, get lightning from Mystic Scroll, and there's a potential chance that you will get him from lightning from either a Mystic Scroll, a Fire Scroll, or Legendary Scroll, or exclusive summonings if it's in that rotation. However, he's got a little trick to it. He is very easy to obtain because he is a fusion. And let me take you to the fusion hexagram. This is the fusion hexagram. Scroll down the very bottom and you'll find Verdehile. He is the Fire Vampire. He's a 4-star. To obtain Verdehile, you must have the Fire Imp Champion, Pharaoh. You must have the Fire Golem, Cougar. You must have the Water Werewolf, Vigor. And you must have the Wind Elemental, Taurus. I believe that's how you pronounce his name. Once you've got all of those 4 monsters awakened and 4-starred max level, remember max leveled, you can then select them and then you can fuse them with also 100,000 mana. And boom, you have just summoned yourself a very, very powerful unit. What does this monster do and why should you use it? Verdehile has only 2 abilities and his 2 skills are really useful. Mostly because of his passive. But let's start off with his leader skill. It is a dungeon leader skill, which increases all monsters' attack speed by 28% in dungeons only. Remember that. You can't use it in tier way, you can't use it in arena, just dungeons. Which doesn't mean the scenario. You can't use it in scenario either. Let's cover his first skill. Vampire Bat. Attacks 2 times with a Vampire Bat and recovers HP by 30% of the inflicted damage. He's multi-hit, which is very important for his passive. His second skill, Noble Agreement, strikes 2 strong blows. This attack receives a 30% critical rate bonus, which is very important for Verdehile. And most importantly, Boiling Blood. Boiling Blood passive, your critical hits increase the attack bar of all allies by 20%. This effect does not have the similar effect with the same skills. You can't use 2 Verdehiles together, they don't affect each other. The reason this passive is so important, his first and his second skill are both multi-hits, which every time he attacks, if you crit, you will gain an AoE 40% attack bar, which is very, very useful. The reason you should use this? AoE attack bar increase in a turn-based game is very powerful, if not overpowered. It can change the tide of most battles, if not all of them. Taking more turns than your opponent dramatically increases your likelihood of winning. Rune Guide. In this part of the video, I will be covering the early, mid, late, and sometimes even more than 1 late game build. So, as we start off with Verdehile. Verdehile for early game needs Swift Blade, speed, crit rate, HP. Because of his passive, you must aim for as much crit rate as possible. Aim for 100%, that is why it is Swift Blade. The reason you have him on speed is because he needs to take turns. Every time he takes a turn, you gain AoE attack bar, which is very important. The crit rate is obviously for his passive, and the top left rune will be HP, because then he adds survivability. Because when you're early game, you don't have enough damage to nuke down bosses in 1 turn, so that will allow him to survive to give the rest of his teammates more turns. Now we'll move on to mid game. Mid game can be similar to mine. It can be Violent Blade, or it can be Violent Revenge. The reason mid-game you will be moving on to Violent, because once you've hit level 50 you should be around the time you start farming dragons. When you farm dragons you will be obtaining the Violent rune set. The Violent rune set will definitely benefit Verdehile, because that is where you will be using Verdehile. Verdehile pretty much lives in dragons. Now, late game, there is 2 builds. There is either late game speed teams, which would be Violent Fight or Violent Revenge. I personally don't like Violent Revenge for a speed dungeon run, because when you're doing speed dungeons, you're not going to be attacked. So you don't need him to revenge the boss, because you're going to kill him first turn. So either go for Broken with better stats, or go for things like Fight rune sets, because fights will allow you to kill like all your other monsters to deal more damage and kill the boss. However, if you are late game, you should then move on your rune sets to attack, crit damage attack, to put out as much damage as possible. Late game for PvP, it's all up to you. You can choose to go late game for Swift, Violent, your choice depending on what you'd prefer, and as fast as possible, at least 155 speed, preferably 170. That is very hard to aim for, with also maintaining 100% crit rate, but I believe you can do it. Where is Verdehile useful? Verdehile is very useful in dragons. Because of his AoE attack bar increase, he allows you to lap the boss, which is very important. However, you will not be using him in Giants or Necro, because 1, your speed is capped and he doesn't work. His passive does not apply to his allies once he is in the Dragons, in the Necro, so you will not be using him there. You could use him obviously in Tier Way if you want. It is not the most useful, but if you would like to, you can use him in Tier Way. You can use him in RTA. Ignore my team. You are welcome to use him in RTA if you're doing late game. If you're early game, I would recommend to just leaving him in Dragons. And there is an example team for you. He is really, really good. What are my opinions on Verdehile? In my personal opinion, I feel like he has one of the best leader skills for dungeons for early game, because speed is very, very important in a turn-based game. His passive is really good. It can also work on revenge procs if you're still early game. That works very well with his dungeon lead skill, because that means he'll be lapping the enemy for just attacking him. So punishing the enemy on their turns is very, very useful. He has very little weaknesses. All he has is, the only weakness Verdehile has would be that if he doesn't crit, he doesn't do too much. So you build with a 100% crit rate, he should be reliable in most places. He is also very unique because he is amazing for both early and end game players. So that means fuse him very early on, and you will keep him from start to finish of Summoner's War. I hope you guys enjoyed the very first episode of my Monster Guide series. I hope to do more. I plan to do more. This is going to be an experimental video, but if you guys liked it, what you didn't like about it, please let me know. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.